Hello, everybody. This is Zerda with Zerda MTG, and with me here today, I have a couple of people to give you the M21 Set review. All right. So, everybody, feel like introducing yourselves?
Hello, I am Nathaniel Soul, also known as Ryuden.
I'm James Bates, also known as James Bates.
I'm Zuhair, also known as Zuhair.
All right. First on the list, we have Garruk Unleashed. Zuhair, do you care to explain?
All right, so I think this card is actually just insane. So Garruk is, I think, especially post rotation, it's really going to be like a big mid-range deck. Mono green's already seeing play. Gruul's already seeing play. Green red. I just think this card helps give the deck reach with trample, so it doesn't just have to rely on Ember Cleave to get there. And worst case scenario, it definitely makes a token. And the emblem is actually just insanely real. So I just think
if your emblem a planeswalker, you're basically just winning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that Garruk Unleashed is definitely a good card, an inspiring card. I think that LSV actually said it best on Min or Myth yesterday, where he said the Garruk and the Liliana from this set look like what would happen if you gave an AI a copy of every Liliana and every Garruk card ever printed and made it come up with a new Planeswalker. I laughed very hard at that joke, and it's true because he makes a beast, he makes dude bigger. I think Garruk has the big problem of he will exist in Standard eternally with Gemrazor and Questing Beast and Stonecoil Serpent, which means it'll be very difficult for you to ever want to put this in your deck as your 4-drop, just because he's not. I don't think he's better than any of those cards. I think he's a good card. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's a hard ask. It's a hard ask from either of the decks you mentioned to cut those cards, especially Questing Beast. Is just gonna be hard.
Like,
yeah, I could see the Questing Beast argument. I think Gemrazor oftentimes, though, I mean, I don't know about Standard. I really like Garruk, especially in older formats. I think Questing Beast in those formats, I just have never been super impressed with it. Whereas something that sticks and continuously either pumps and gives things trample. So like this, for instance, in like just a classic deck with like Land War Elf, right? Turns your elves into a 4/4 and attacks. And it just helps pump the rest of your board. And so that's something that Questing Beast can't do, right?
Sure.
So
sure.
It just gives more value over just being probably the best mid-range creature.
Yeah, and I think this is I don't think this is a 4 of. I don't think it's like a Jace the Mind Sculptor levels. This is definitely, I think, a 1 to 2 of, right? Something that is a top end for.
Yeah. This isn't War of the Spark. This isn't a Jace the Mind Sculptor level card out on common.
Yeah.
Also,
this
definitely helps out when you're behind, when you're ahead, and when you're at parity. And so when you're ahead, this just closes the deal with giving your guys trample and extra reach. And I liken this card a lot to Elspeth Knight Errant, and I actually think this is actually a little bit better than that card because this makes 3/3s, whereas Elspeth makes 1/1s.
Yeah, so. And it gives +3/+3 even if it loses the flying versus.
Yeah,
I would say I agree. I didn't consider it for Eternal formats, but then if you enter Eternal into the question, he has to compete with Garruk Relentless, which I think is just as hard.
Yeah, I mean, him not being able to kill something is actually like a downside, right? Like Garruk Relentless being able to just kill a Stoneforge Mystic is actually a pretty big deal.
And then threat, unless. But yeah, I think you're right. He pushes damage. He pushes damage quickly. That's definitely his strength.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Although better than Elspeth. Let's be real here.
Yeah,
I think
that's
so.
That's really a tough sell for me. I've seen you play Elspeth against me, but I can also imagine myself losing plenty of games to Garruk, so.
Can Green stop taking everything, all right?
Anyway, moving on to the next card. Teferi, Master of Time.
Yeah, speaking of format of Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So, I'm not entirely sure about this one. Like, no actual card advantage being gained is, I think an EDH if you, have any loyalty doubling activations or an Atraxa deck, then absolutely. I'm not too sure about in Standard.
So, having now played in a lot of Standard with this set out, let me tell you that there are cards that we've all played with the cards that are way better than they look, right?
Yeah.
And cards are read way worse. This is definitely in the first category. This card is incredible. It might not see a lot of play in this particular standard just because there's so many incredible cards.
Yeah, like
but you
Jace
will
didn't see
be seeing
play
this
with
card, and this card is
Bloodbraid.
commanding an almost $70 price tag right now. It might have gone down. I think it was Moto actually, where it was $70.
Yeah, well, Moto standard cards are absurd.
True, but there's play patterns that you don't really think about a Planeswalker being capable of doing, because not only is this, it doesn't defend itself incredibly well. Obviously, Phase Out is a permanent defense, but it defends your other permanents in a way, your other creatures in a way that
That's a good point.
So the first time I would try to point and Illuminate at a Hydroid Crassus that was like a 10/10, and my opponent phased it out with Teferi. You're like, oh, huh, that plays.
That shouldn't, because it's target creature you don't control.
Yeah.
Oh,
Might have been a glitch there.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, I was in paper. Okay, I guess we just didn't read the card.
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay. Either way, in this particular standard, with
That
Uro
would be
being
absurd.
a format, and the loot effect is just better than it looks, because the good cards are so good.
Yeah, I mean, like this.
Oh, yeah.
This is like
Looting is definitely powerful. I was just wondering, do you think like the 4-mana loot every turn was good enough? And I think you've definitely sold me on it. I think it'll definitely be strong enough.
I mean, just think of the play pattern, right? Like you're a control deck. Control decks, like it's extremely difficult to balance a control deck with answers that are, instant removal, counter spells. Like this just helps you filter through that.
In a control mirror, this is dump all of your Wrath of Gods, draw counter spells or Planeswalkers.
Yeah, every turn, and then the -3 on it is really just a -1 or a
And I
minus.
guess it would also let you be a slightly lower to the ground control deck, where you don't need to hit every single land drop because you have a way to just filter through them, so you can build your deck differently.
Or you can hit every single land drop if that's what the matchup's important.
If spells are bad, you can just discard those instead.
I definitely think this is not a good Planeswalker to play on turn 4, because phasing a creature out isn't a great defense. Like, you can get one creature out of the way against maybe a mid-range deck, but any aggro deck is going to have more than that and be able to
this card's
attack
terrible
it.
against aggro. Don't get me wrong.
So, I think in general, it's the kind of card that you'll probably want to save until like turn 7 or so, when you can play it and still have backup, which makes me a little bit down on it. Just because it doesn't really protect itself that well, but if you can land it, it's pretty powerful. Yeah.
But it's just the best card in the control matchup, right? Like the -10.
Actually, the best card of the Bat Mirror, or the second best card of the Bat Mirror, but we'll get to that later, too.
Yeah, I mean, like
Pretty relevant for standard.
draw a card, discard
I
Uro.
also-
It seems pretty good.
I think it's worth noting that this does have some pretty strong synergies with Uro.
Uro,
Being it
also
discards
that.
Uro and it fuels Uro.
Yeah. It's not insane. It's not Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Anyway, moving on. Tariqat.
Speaking of worse than it reads.
All right, it seems you have some pretty strong opinions on Tariqat. Care to share them?
Well, it's not that it's hard to make a 3-mana Planeswalker for aggressive decks, because it's a really important point on your curve, right? And so in standard right now, unless you're playing straight mono white, it's hard to consistently go a 1-drop into a 2-drop into a 3-mana card, because the mana is so bad. And historic is better, but still not amazing, right? And Tariqat requires you to do that, because if you do anything else, if you miss your 1 and you miss your 1, you play a 2, you play Tariqat, and they kill your 2 on their turn, he doesn't do anything. He does absolutely nothing. So he's a really cool card. Maybe, like, I can imagine like green-white token decks from aeons ago, or black-white token decks from aeons ago might have been really interested in this effect, except he doesn't work with tokens on his minus ability.
Which is really unfortunate.
Well, yeah, I don't even know. That seems gratuitous, but it's just such a high investment, where if they do something like kill your creature in response to his +1, it feels like the game's over.
Yeah, I definitely don't think Basri is going to be good in any kind of deck where you're doing a 1-drop into a 2-drop. This is only going to be good if you have a 1-drop into 2 more 1-drops
or raise the alarm or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you can get a lot of creatures onto the board very quickly, then this can be good. But otherwise, like, it's not going to be good in just a general aggro deck.
This isn't even good in like a raise the alarm deck, because the minus doesn't trigger off of tokens.
And I think the biggest reason why I'm down on this card is that Glorious Anthem's in the same set.
Yeah.
And you have to compare casting this to casting Glorious Anthem. And if he made creatures himself, like if he had a way to make a 1/1 soldier, if his -2 was a -1 that read put a 1/1 white soldier creature token into play, I would actually be more convinced that this card was playable.
Oh, I'd be arguing with all of you about this card's insane.
Yeah,
but,
I'd buy that.
As it stands,
But
if his -2 was Raise the Alarm, this card would be playable.
Yeah, but he requires you to have creatures in play, and he's not a better payoff than another card in the same set as him.
Yeah. The one thing I will say that makes me a little bit higher on him than I should be is Planeswalkers and aggressive decks have this weird thing going on with them as far as play patterns go, where you have to attack it to stop yourself from falling further behind, but that means you're attacking against the deck that presumably is still in the lead, which is something you don't really want to do. You want to keep your creatures back as blockers until you've stabilized.
But this doesn't even like give evasion, so you don't even need to attack him.
Well, you need to make him non-ultimate. I think that's...
Yeah. You need to stop his ult, which is what I'm getting at, and it's kind of...
So, like, what deck is too scared of this ult, right? Even the blue-white control decks, if you ult Bazare and you have no board, their Dream Trawler is going to kill you way before these tokens do.
That's fair.
I'm reading his ult, and I'm not even really like... If they make a 1/1, and if they have a board that you haven't already dealt with, you're done. But, like, in what world is that actually, like, going to actually...
Aren't you already dead at that point? You would just already... It's good in, like, maybe, like, mid-range matchups, but Questing Beast exists.
Questing Beast is absurd, though.
So maybe
let's move on from Boss Recap.
I think the only place this actually has a home is in a green-white counters deck, and it just has nothing else to play. And I don't even see that happening.
I definitely think his best, if not only home, agreeing with you, is going to be in the counters deck. Anyway, moving on from there. We have Grim Tutor.
This card's trash.
Yeah, this card's trash. This card has been printed before, and it has always been trash.
Funny, because this card is like a $100 card, right? Or was a
200.
This card was I'm pretty sure it was like in the threes, but all right.
And it's expensive just because it's inaccessible.
It's also it's still very, very playable in Legacy. In the same deck it's always been playable in, being Tess. And that's the only reason is it just makes your ad nauseums better than an Infernal. What is it? The what's the 5-mana one?
Isn't Spoils the Vault better than this though?
No, in Legacy ad nauseum. Ad nauseum Tendrils.
Yeah.
Spoils of the Vault doesn't draw you
cards.
Yeah.
But doesn't this card just put ad nauseum in your hand?
It can, but you're not doing the same kind of thing there. And if you exile your Tendrils, you would straight up lose.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you only play that. Wait, this card is $25. What the heck?
Yeah.
Well, the pre-release. Yeah.
Basically, you play it to make it yourself able to tutor up answers in grindy matchups and without burning rituals on your tutor, and also because it loses you less life off of an ad naus flip if you don't need to cast the tutor post ad nauseum.
Yeah. I think it's especially in EDH, it's just an extra demonic tutor for your deck, right?
Oh yeah, this is also pick these up for EDH because, oh my god, it's finally affordable.
I don't even play this mono black in EDH.
I would 100%.
Because we play with like proxies too, and it's...
Yeah. If let's just be clear, if you're playing EDH and you're in black, cut Beseech the Queen for this. It's just good. It's just better.
Yeah. Or just play all of the tutors you need.
Yeah, just play all the tutors. It's fun.
Depends. I would say that if you're playing CEDH, that has a grain of truth to it. But if you're not, don't worry about it.
Oh yeah. But don't worry about it price wise. But this is just. It's a very good card.
Well, this card's price is going to tank.
Outside of.
Pick these up. Pick these up right before they rotate out of standard. In case they shoot up again somehow.
Sell them the first 2 weeks and then buy them the 4th week.
Anyway, moving on. Massacre Worm.
Those are some nice tokens you have there, Field of the Dead player.
Oh man.
Speaking of EDH deck,
you're making me really happy about playing mono black now. I despise playing against the Field of the Dead decks. I like to play decks that have some level of inevitability, and I feel you cannot have inevitability over Field of the Dead.
Well, you can now.
Oh yeah, but if they make a horde of zombies, now they're the one afraid. Oh man, are these zombies gonna kill me?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. There's no Field of the Dead decks really in any other format. I guess Primeval Titan decks kind of play Field of the Dead, don't they?
Legacy technically plays Field and lands, but that's Let's not go there.
I think this card's only relevant for historic because that's the only reason why I think we have it on this list, right? Is it kills kill the dead player dies instantly.
Yeah, I mean it's already medium all-star.
In future standards, if there's a low to the ground deck where all the creatures die to -2/-2, this will be absurd. But let's be honest.
It's hard to imagine that right now.
Yeah, even mono red has 3 toughness dudes just floating around there.
Yeah,
well, this card's terrible.
And you'd have to survive to get to 6 mana.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Even if you could put this into play against Anax, you would still die.
You put this into play against Anax, they just make a bunch of tokens and then kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you could probably play like a green-black ramp deck back, like a la standard, and like Kukusho is legal.
No, yeah, it's true. Sultai might play this card in standard.
Yeah, if you can ramp it out.
You go cultivate into this. It's not bad.
You could easily cultivate. I mean, you could even like.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about this. We'll talk about Solemn Simulacrum later, but this card plays really well with Solemn Simulacrum.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's also, if you ramp it out ahead of curve, I think it's good. If you play it with a lot of other interaction, you're losing on the life loss. I don't think this is going to be a controlling card, except maybe out of the board.
Well, you could like turn 3 Solemn, turn 4 Massacre Worm, right?
The big problem with this card in standard right now is just that Massacre Girl is also in standard. And I think Massacre Girl does this better most of the time, because Massacre Girl can actually kill bigger creatures. As soon as she rotates, this is more appealing. But Massacre Girl is a much bigger draw at the moment, I would say. And Extinction...
Why not just have both and go full Massacre?
Oh, because you play a Massacre Girl, and then you play a Massacre Worm, and there's no more Massacre.
Yeah, it's a big Massacre.
You go Extinction Event into Massacre Girl into Massacre Worm, and everything's dead.
Oh, man.
But honestly speaking, with Solemn Simulacrum, like turn 3 Solemn, turn 4 Massacre Worm, I'm actually kind of buying into this in standard.
Well, the problem with it in standard, here's the big problem with it in standard, isn't that you can't ramp it out, it's that 0 decks care. This just doesn't kill anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gruul's all going to be 3/3s or 4/4s or bigger than this. Maybe like the token deck if the +1/+1 counter deck. I guess.
Yeah. Maybe Gruul is historic because it can kill their burning trees, their dorks, and some stuff. But
no,
then block.
The big deck in standard actually. This does kill the dog deck. The Hound Master.
Oh, come on. Don't tell me that Massacre Worm is killing dogs. I like Massacre Worm.
Oh my god.
I believe this kills everything but Winota in the dog deck. So that deck's looking pretty good. So that might be relevant.
Oh dear lord.
All right, moving on then.
And Sultai's a real deck, so look out for some Massacre Worm.
of the Peaks.
Okay. This card is Busto.
If you untap with it.
Yeah. It's a good card.
That's not me saying it dies to Doomblade. That's me saying that you will die to your opponent's creatures.
It dies to Elspeth Conqueror's death. Is the problem.
Yeah, no, Elspeth ECD is definitely a problem. But like, so I guess I don't know about standard. I mean, I can see this as a top end in a Gruul deck because, like, why not? Like, all the cards.
They have 5 mana haste dragon as well.
All the cards we talk about don't really cost the mana cost, right? Just -1 or 2, and that's what it really costs. But like this card is actually just insane in EDH. Like that third.
Oh yeah, that third ability there. That's absurd in any format you untap with it in. The problem in standard right now is if you're not getting instant value out of your creatures, you could just be playing a creature you get instant value out of, and not have to, jump through.
I think this is great, and like I don't know how well the mana is going to be next set, but for a John deck, like you can ramp into this fairly easily. You play removal, and this guy, like he's just not going to die. You're gonna kill it, and then they're going to take 3. Like
he's going to be sent to the underworld by ECT.
I 100% think that this card is going to see play in standard at some point. I'm just not sure it's our current standard.
Yeah, the problem is that there's only room for one 5 mana. There's one best 5 mana red card, right? Or 6 mana red card, right? Currently, that card is Embercleave, which means you would never need to cast this card. You just on turn 4, you attack, you play an Embercleave, you either win the game on the spot, or this card wouldn't have saved you anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Or even if you weren't playing Embercleave and you were going bigger Gruul, you have the 5 mana dragon from Ravnica, one of the Ravnica sets, right?
That has Skargan Hellkite, I believe.
Skargan Hellkite that has haste.
And then you at least have haste. You get
like this card. If this card was a 4/4 and had haste, this would be the best card, the best red dragon ever printed.
If this thing just had haste, so you could get some kind of instant value out of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, if this thing had haste, it would
I'd be disagreeing with anyone who said it wasn't going to see play immediately. as it stands, like
Football Crater was in Ikoria though, so you could give it haste.
It has.
Then you're playing Football Crater in your deck. So you play this in Cycling, obviously. Cycling is the home for this card.
Oh man, that's so good. Every time, once a turn, every time you cycle, you get to ping something for 1.
They'll never see it. They'll never see it coming.
Never see it coming.
I mean, you brought out your removal spells against cycling decks, right? So.
Yeah.
Oh,
totally.
Man, yeah. Who
That's
plays
what I do.
removal against cycling?
Who needs to kill foxes? Just let them live.
I mean, come on. What does the fox
fine.
even say? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Anyway,
card's
moving on
sweet.
to,
really good if you can on top with it. That's
Yeah.
I
Being
hope
in the
you
same
understand.
being in the same
James.
format as Elspeth Conquer's deck. That's just hard for a 5
You were
mana
saying
card.
this with an image of Demonic Embrace on screen, so
Yeah, sorry.
this may or may
Well,
not
I
be
mean,
used against you.
IDCD Demonic Embrace too. Here's just a shout out. Nathaniel and I talked about this before the show. For any of our viewers who play draft, if you open this in your pack, change your colors, put it in your deck.
What card are we talking about?
Absolutely.
Demonic
Anything
Embrace.
is a
Demonic
bomb.
Embrace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You put
Demonic
this-
Embrace is
Yeah.
crazy powerful in draft.
Yeah.
It's like it reminds me of that card, that enchantment from like I think it was one of the original. It was one of the original Innistrad sets. I don't remember which one. The one that was the homicidal tendencies or whatever. If you had one creature, it got +2/+2 and lifelink and flying. And the card was it was an enchantment that just stayed in play. That card was just unbeatable in draft. This is the
man.
same thing. It's the same thing. +3/+1 flying.
Just pretend it's an equipment. It's not really an enchantment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that this card would be standard playable if you didn't have to pay the mana to cast it from your graveyard.
Oh, that would just not be right.
You know how stupid that card would be?
It would, but as it is, 3 mana, like it
Oh
just
my
like
God.
If you didn't have to discard a card, maybe, but if you didn't have to pay the mana,
You know, if this was free, you
Come on,
wouldn't
man,
have
no
to.
Hogax
It would be
here.
playable.
because the thing is, in like, if you play this in at least in Standard Historic, if they kill your creature in response to you putting this back into play from the graveyard, then
But this nice is it gets around all that because you get to do the second part ability, right? Like this is an aura that is replayable, even it doesn't die to removal.
but it's still card disadvantage every time you play it.
Yeah.
And they kill it. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The nightmare is you play this from your graveyard, they kill the creature.
I think this is an all-star and pioneer mono black aggro. Like you just discard your 4th swamp, who cares?
Yeah.
I think if you're playing some kind of self-mill deck, there's a chance it sees play in Standard, but outside of that, I don't think this is really going to see much constructed play.
Can't imagine
outside
yourself interested in turning creature. Well, you know what? There is a card we'll talk about later, which indicates maybe your self-milled deck will in fact turn creatures sideways. Who knows? Or maybe that card's opponents. I don't remember. But
That is opponents.
oh, never mind.
Look, man, all I'm saying is Croxa like self-mill, Demonic Embrace
you
like
know what?
self-mill.
I'll look out for this card when a Smuggler's Copter inevitably gets unbanned in Pioneer.
Oh
That's
my
when this
God.
card's time will be.
Oh,
Yeah.
that I don't like that. Anyway, moving
Is
on.
Smuggler
to
Copter legal in
Containment Priest.
Historic?
Smuggler's Copter is not printed on MTGA, so no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully it remains that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can print Phyrexian Obliterator into Arena, play that in Historic. Just please don't give us Copter.
I'm gonna play this on your Obliterator.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, because you want them to block your Obliterator. All right, moving on.
moving on to Containment Priest. So this card, not sure it's going to see any Standard play. Not sure what you'd be.
What are you talking about? There should be a cat.
Thorough.
There should be a cat in that picture, right in the middle. There should be a black cat in her middle of her hands.
Fair enough. I guess it'll see sideboard play, but
So Uro you actually cast is the
Yeah,
is the
Uro-
different thing.
Is
yeah.
it?
So it doesn't stop them.
It does not stop
if
Uro.
If
is
it did, I think this
silly.
would just be main board playable. But
Yeah.
Speaking of, we have another card.
oh yeah,
It stops your Demonic Embrace. How about that?
yeah. Oh,
Don't you cast Demonic
non-token
Embrace?
creature.
Oh no, you can't. Doesn't. Yeah, this card.
It needs to be a
Standard.
creature. But
Yeah.
this is going to be nice because I don't think Containment Priest was in Modern, was it?
No.
No.
That's the big thing.
Yeah. So
And I think it
that's-
will see a lot of modern play. Yeah.
Oh,
Death and
absolutely.
Taxes is all over this.
It is a
Also,
human.
the best card in the Death and Taxes mirror. I think you win the game if you cast this on turn 2 in the mirror.
Well, if you have this in the
my
new, it unlocks the new combo in Modern where this plus the Eldrazi Displacer just exiles things forever.
Oh yeah.
3 mana exile.
So just 3 mana exile a creature. Just be aware not to use it with your own Aether Vial. you will not be happy about what happens next.
This is just a card that should be. If White's identity is going to be denying degenerate tricks, like it's good they printed this card into all these formats, right?
Oh
yeah. Also, the extended art on this card is amazing.
Yeah.
Oof! I wish I had a picture of it saved.
Oh, you could Containment Priest through the breach. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or you could through the breach a Containment Priest. Keep them guessing.
I have actually played against an opponent once who bricked so hard they in their last turn threw the breach to Sakura Tribe Elder.
And killed me?
I won the game, but it was funny. It was very funny because I was like shooting bricks for a moment. I was like, is this an Evercool? The game over?
I mean, hey, I've won games where I've had to sneak attack in a Simian Spirit Guide, turn it into a Goblin Guide.
Yeah. It was mostly funny because of how he stone-facedly did it too.
I've definitely been in a tight
you would just
where my opponent had to through the breach to Kuro when I was at 1 life and killed me.
Ooh.
That definitely was not fun, but it was fun.
I think you have to pack it up. I'm pretty sure you have to drop if you do that.
I'm pretty sure you just sell your deck after that event. You just say, hey, maybe Zoo isn't playable anymore.
Wait, Containment Priest has an invocation?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
it
does.
But it's a creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is...
Wizards doesn't care. They make the rules, they break the rules.
To be fair, what white spells do you choose as invocations, right?
Armageddon.
They're like Wrath of God and...
Sort of Plowshares, Path to Exile, that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, Armageddon's a good card. Good, clean fun for everyone.
The card actually is fun.
I think they should bring back Armageddon.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from these
format, they should be Armageddon.
I don't want people banging down my door because I said, hey, you should reprint Armageddon. If they actually do it, we'll get blamed.
Do you think... Honest question, though. Do you think that Armageddon is better than Uro?
Yes.
Do
you understand how many red-white prisons could exist in elder formats?
In
older format, sure, but we're talking in like standard historic.
In standard, I think with a playable white weenie deck, Armageddon would be better.
Green, white, Geddon. Play all the dorks and just Armageddon people, and they'll never play cards again, and you will always play cards.
I think then it would be better than Uro. Outside of that very specific situation, absolutely not. Uro is absurd.
Yeah, I think that something like Armageddon could be reprinted. Ruination could definitely be reprinted.
Yeah. Right, moving on to Chandras Incinerator, the turn 2 6/6 for the turn 3 burn kill.
That will never happen.
That'll never happen ever.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's so easy. You just have to suspend a Rift Bolt, untap, bolt your opponent, play Chandras Incinerator, untap with it, hit them for 6, and have 3 more 3-damage burn spells for 1 mana.
You know, I'm just gonna say that if my hand consisted of 6 1-mana burn spells, I'm actually already... I'm pretty sure that 7 1-mana burn spells is the kill condition of mono red, right?
Yeah.
So if I just turn this into another lightning bolt, I would still win, right?
Yeah.
Well, you would need the second land, I think.
That's true.
I will definitely say, as someone who played a lot of burn, Chandras Incinerator is not good enough. There is way better things.
$100 on that. I will lose this card at some point in my Magic career, and I will be very unhappy about it.
So what you got to do with this card is you got to play Tear the Peaks, play a creature, let that creature deal damage, and then play the Incinerator. And now we're talking.
No. See, you play Terror of the Peaks, and then you untap. You cast your second Terror of the Peaks, and then you put this card into play, and then you kill them instantly.
So I'm going to say something that I do think this is playable in a modern burn deck.
That's hilarious. You just 17 them with that line.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Either you attack and they're dead.
So, guys,
Scotty, what are you saying?
I do think that this is playable in a modern burn deck. Burn deck. Budget burn. I think
that's true.
I think this is a very, very, very playable budget option. But I think your best lines in burn, being leading on a turn 1 creature, kind of makes this really bad in your best draws.
And honestly, leading on a turn 2 creature too.
Yeah.
Bedlam Rosal is already like
it's
budget.
still playable late.
Yeah, Eidolon is $6 right now. I think that.
Yeah. I do think Incinerator can see standard play, depending on how it goes. But they already have that 1-mana 1/1 that when it attacks, it deals 1 to an opponent.
Fire, but it's rotating out in the next set.
Yeah,
we still
that
have,
will help make this cheaper. And there's a lot of things like that
Cavalcade.
that you can use.
Yeah, if Cavalcade, a Cavalcade trigger. So if you put the 1-mana 1/1 that burns them, and you put Cavalcade in play on turn 2, you can play Chandras Incinerator on turn 3. So
Yeah.
that's like the best thing about this card I can really say, but for standard purposes.
But yeah, I think it's a good budget alternative in Modern, but mostly if you want a big burn creature, just play Bedlam Reveler.
Okay, I'm gonna really, really piss off a lot of your viewers here, but if you need a budget option in burn,
it's already your budget option.
You probably shouldn't be playing Modern. You should probably not be playing Magic, but that's a different story.
Yeah, like that's. Yeah, I mean, people need stress relief, man.
This is kitchen table card, right? Like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a sweet kitchen table card. It's
also,
a commander. This card's a commander card.
If you need a budget burn deck, burn is cheaper in Legacy. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Pauper burn.
Flame Rift.
Pauper burn. Oh my god, I played too much Pauper burn. Don't bring me back to those days. Anyway, moving on. Garruk's Harbinger. Not a card that I play a lot of.
So let me just put it in context here. This is saying that not only is Ophidian a green card, but it's not good enough.
Oh my god.
In order to make Ophidian an appropriate green card, it has to have a relevant keyword, it has to have 3 more power, and it has to also, instead of drawing 1 card, look through mini cards for card selection. This card, if you hit somebody with this card, in Standard at least, and in Modern, and in, not Modern, in Historic, you almost just win the game.
Yeah,
it's
my thing...
very difficult to lose.
Do you think it's going to be playable in mono green when it's competing with things like Yorvo?
This is better than Yorvo. Yorvo is not very good.
All right.
Yeah, this is gonna take. I mean, Yorvo's strength is that it gets huge, and a lot of players do like that. But Yorvo is A, legendary, and B, dies to eliminate, and dies to everything really, but eliminate. The only thing that Yorvo, the thing that saw make Yorvo see play is that the best removal spell in Standard previously was Heartless Act, and Yorvo doesn't die to Heartless Act usually. Sometimes he does, but most often he doesn't. Right? But this doesn't die to Heartless Act either. So
this card seems good.
If you plus Garruk on this card,
pretty good.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong card. It's not insane. Like it's not, it being a 4/3 is actually kind of weak. 3 toughness is a little bit suspect.
Yeah, I mean, if this was a 4/4, it would just be played in Modern, right? Like you can't lightning bolt it. But...
Yeah, this thing's gas in Historic. Line of War Elf into Garruk's Harbinger.
Yeah.
That sounds absurd. I'm not looking forward to that. It's a person who plays a lot of Blue-Black Flash on my channel.
You lose the game if they resolve this card, right?
Yeah. I have, like... I guess you have Merfolk Harbinger, but that's about it.
You play Brazen Borrowers? You better chain your Brazen Borrowers.
I'm just glad they didn't bring back Protection. So this card doesn't have Protection from black.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be miserable. Moving on to the next one. Conspicuous Snoop, the best card in the set, and I will die on that hill.
Yep.
Yeah, this card is broken in like all older formats.
Is Kiki Jiki in your format?
What were they even thinking with this card? Like it took people like what 25 minutes to figure out how to OTK you with this.
I don't think it took them that long. I think they saw it, went Goblin. Hey, know what's a Goblin? Kiki Jiki. Hey, know that.
Well, see, the thing that people didn't think it took a while was Mog Fanatic. That was the missing key.
It doesn't even need to be Mog Fanatic. There's also the black one, the 4-mana black Goblin that sacrifices goblins.
Yeah. Sling Gang Lieutenant.
Yeah, Sling Gang.
Yeah.
But like, it works in mono red, works in red black. Yeah, holy cow.
This card will be banned at Historic, I guarantee, at some point.
It's pretty good in Modern, obviously. I think Legacy, Muxus is much better than this card, but like from what I've seen some of the streamers, the combo isn't as good for the Kiki and Legacy. But I mean, in EDH Modern, this card is pretty solid, right? Like
this
2 mana draw cards.
I was watching a video. Cards. Yeah, I saw Andrea Mangucci die to this card in turn 2 in Vintage. So,
oh man,
it's just like turn 1.
Doesn't even seem that difficult to do.
You could do it on turn 1. You go just land Black Lotus. You play a Conspicuous Snoop and a Goblin Recruiter.
This card's gonna see a lot of play.
I don't think this card belongs in the same deck as the 6-mana Goblin, though. I think those are different decks.
Oh yeah, the 6-mana Goblin is
it's the traditional Goblin.
Yeah.
I hit you with my
Goblin Lackey.
Of course,
Goblin Lackey, and now I've won the game.
I dropped that on turn 2, and suddenly you're just dead.
I am very curious for this card in Modern, though, because all the goblins. Now that all the best goblins are in Historic and Modern, I can see this card doing some pretty sweet stuff.
Well, mine is the best goblin, but
And by sweet, I mean, I guess Splinter Twin was too good? Question mark.
Yeah, I don't think it ever was, but we don't have time for me to have.
I'm pretty sure we're the wrong demographic. I'm pretty sure we all don't think Splinter Twin was too good, right?
Yeah.
Does anybody in this chat room believe that Splinter Twin was too good?
I'm really glad it's not legal in Modern.
You turn creatures sideways, don't you?
He turns creatures sideways.
Okay, never mind. Your opinion doesn't matter. You're not a real. You're not a real Magic player. You're the wrong kind of Eternal player. But you play. But
you heard it.
You're the kind of person.
We're Splinter Twin players.
You're the kind of person who loads into a vintage queue on Moto and puts in hate bearers, aren't you? You know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting to play my Forest and my Mox Pearl and drop myself a 6/6 Leonin Arbiter.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think Conspicuous Snoop is going to be absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm like, anybody questions that? Like, it's funny that you actually forget this card says you can cast the card from the top of your deck too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like
that's flavor text.
Like that's going to be really, really relevant flavor text. But this is also like, even if it wasn't for the Kiki combo, this is just confirmation that we're never getting Goblin Recruiter back in Legacy.
Yeah.
Because like, it works with the food chain to just cast every goblin in your deck off the top of your deck in another way. So,
yeah.
I mean, that was what got Goblin Recruiter banned, was the food chain combo. So,
yeah, but if we can't have Sensei's Dividing Top because it causes too much shuffling, we sure as hell can't have Goblin Recruiter.
That's true.
Okay, I'll just sit here for 15 minutes while you look through your deck and make a pile. That's
Just
fine.
unban Recruiter.
Hey, we still have Doomsday, so I'm not sure that's entirely true.
Well, Doomsday, it's 4 cards. It's not 15.
It's 5 cards, but it takes 15 minutes to make the pile.
But why don't we just ban
and then you still
unban Recruiter?
That's the best part. You cast Doomsday, you spend 15 minutes to check your deck, and it'll die anyway. Let's move on.
All right, moving on.
Oh, we could play Doomsday with Conspicuous Snoop.
Oh my god.
There you go.
Now, Doomsday is actually seeing play again because of Thassa's Oracle being absurd. But
Yeah.
anyway, moving on to Karavik the Spiteful. 4 mana, 3/2. Other creatures get -1/-1. Sign me up.
No, this creature says one. This creature actually has a different line of text printed on it for standard applications. It says your opponent. It says your opponents can no longer your opponents can no longer bring a which is familiar into play.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is the key interaction this card has. I think this card is actually.
They can still bring it into play. It just dies immediately.
Yeah, they can't keep bringing it.
They can't sacrifice it to the oven anymore.
I do actually think this card is a lot worse than it normally would be. Like, I think in other formats, in other standards, this effect might be a lot better than it is right now, since there's basically no aggro decks.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, I guess most of Mono Red's creatures do die to this card. So
yeah, and it does make Annex a lot worse because you take away the token ability being relevant.
But they just shock it, and then...
Yeah, then they just shock it. And
if this card was a 2/3, I'd be so much more sold.
Yeah.
You want to hear a conspiracy theory?
Oh.
Okay.
They printed this card so Jund could play it in the main deck in Modern so that they could unban Splinter Twin.
Okay, yeah, but like that's what I thought about Plague Engineer. So and it's still banned.
I don't say it's real. I'm just saying.
No.
Plague Engineer should be
Jund
banned
had
too.
a good matchup against Twin. Jund doesn't need anything better.
Yeah, I think that this card being a 3/2, it's just Dinosaur's Betrayal is such a good card, but attaching it to a creature for the same mana cost is a lot worse.
Yeah.
Which is
easier
because normally you'd rather things be a creature, but if you want them to stick around forever.
Well, because like if this had the body of Plague Engineer, it's a good comparison. If this was a 3-mana 2/2, this card would be much better.
Oh, that wouldn't even be reasonable.
Yeah, this card would be played everywhere.
Neither is Plague Engineer. Let's be clear here, but it's not reasonable. I don't think it's that reasonable on the face of it now. It'll see sideboard play, but if only because Cat Oven decks don't lose this card because they can still just ping it off the table with they can pick it off the table, but it's very good against them.
Also, you can play this in the same deck as Massacre Worm and just take care of everything forever.
Oh, so nice.
Also, there must be a sense of humor at R&D that Conspicuous Snoop wasn't a 2/1, because if that would be a great card in that situation too.
All right, moving on to the next one. We have See the Truth. Now, I think this card's gonna be okay as long as you have multiple ways to cast it from the graveyard. Or, don't care about instant speed in the slightest.
So for Snowcaster Mage, for Thunder...
I think if you're paying full mana for it, like, I think if you're paying 4 mana for it in a turn, that's a lot worse. I mean, like,
yeah, I don't think I'm winning if my turn 4 is cast this level Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah.
Why aren't I just playing Jace the Mind Sculptor then?
No, I think, like, if you're a Jace Vryn's Prodigy deck in older formats, or if you're a Chandra deck in current standard, or future standard. No, current, because it's not gonna...
Vryn's Prodigy, I think, is the best use application for this. I think that in older formats, though, it just struggles from being compared to... It's gonna have to beat out playing Treasure Cruise / Dig Through Time in the formats where it's legal. Obviously, Modern doesn't have that problem.
Those cards aren't... that's only Vintage.
No, aren't those cards legal in Pioneer? They're legal in Pioneer, right?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it... And the older the format gets, the bigger the sorcery tag means something. Like, this card's not playable in Legacy and Vintage. Not even remotely.
And I don't think you can just lean back on, well, Teferi makes it an instant, because... Come on. Teferi's good.
Teferi makes it an instant, 2 mana, put 1 card into your hand, which is still terrible.
Yeah, it makes it anticipate. That's not a high enough bar.
If you're casting this card from your hand, you're not winning.
Doesn't... I mean, new Teferi puts this in your graveyard. So is there anything in Standard that lets you flash back?
There's the Chandra. 3 mana Chandra.
For now. Those 2 cards... The bigger one, I think, is Finale of Glory, is the one people talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Or the red finale, right?
Yeah. So the people are going to have tried this out on Arclight Phoenix, and it was okay. There was a standard challenge on Moto a couple days ago, and there was a red-white Phoenix / the dragon. I always think of it as Mini Godzilla, whatever the perfect pet card that did play the card.
Oh, the Jeskai Vardock. There's a Jeskai Ikoria card. It's like the Mantis Rider.
It's their Apex. I don't think you would really want to go that deep on it, but it's fine to play this off Finale of Glory. It's something that Standard doesn't have. Like, Standard doesn't really have cantrips that are valuable, right? So it's hard to recoup the card advantage off Finale of Glory. But like in Modern,
Promise, the red one.
Yeah, the red one, the Promise. Yeah. Sorry, Glory is white, right? But Finale of Promise is such a weird name for a red card. But like the Modern Phoenix decks, they didn't have it. They didn't have that same problem, right? They could just recoup the card advantage elsewhere. Yeah. Also, it's really awkward. This card is coming out in the same set as Frantic Inventory.
Yeah. Take Inventory, I think, is going to
very large problem with this card.
But I think if you have ways to skip casting this from your hand and just cast it from your grave instead, which I'd want more than 4 cards that let you do to play this in the first place, then I think this is going to be pretty good. Outside of that, I'm not seeing.
Also, it's just really hard to make a deck that's going to do that consistently.
Yeah, and the ways you could like get around casting it, you'd in older formats, you would do that to Ancestral Vision instead. Like Cascade.
100%. Plus, you can more easily Ancestral Vision with a Dreadhorde Arcanist than you can,
cast this. Yeah. If this cost 1 mana and this would see Standard play just because of Dreadhorde Arcanist.
Well, it would just be Ponder, right? Like, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be Ponder plus, but hey, you can't shuffle it away.
But you just put them on the bottom, so it's the same thing.
No, but Ponder, you can see the 3 cards, say they all suck, and then stuff all of them away.
Yeah.
This one does stick you with one of the 3 cards. Yeah. So,
plus
obviously, it would still be good.
Also, the only way I see this being actually pretty decent in Standard is if we get some kind of Cascade deck going. Like if they reprint Cascade as a mechanic, but
that's going to be happening anytime ever.
Oh, I highly doubt Cascade's coming back to Standard soon. But I mean, worth noting. I don't think it's good enough to Cascade into it in any older format.
Cascade into this. Not that this is terrible, but it's medium. Because cascading it isn't casting it from a graveyard. So.
It doesn't need to be graveyard.
Oh, anywhere. Oh, that's true. Okay. Yeah, that's
if we're going to Alara anytime soon and they bring back Cascade, this could be epic.
I'm pretty sure we can't go back. Isn't Alara really high on their not going back scale?
No, Alara is one of their things that they really do want to go back to. It's just hard to because of the
story is kind of screwed up.
Yeah, they destroyed the plane with the story. Yeah. So, like Mark Rosewater has said, they are trying to find a way to go back to it. It's just one of those things, it's not.
We're going back to Zendikar, even though there's nothing going on in Zendikar. We don't care about Zendikar anymore, but we're going there anyway. So,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people care about Zendikar. Zendikar is a lot of people's favorite plane.
I mean, it's a favorite plane, but the story of the plane is over. The Eldrazi are dead. Like, why are we going there?
So that you can play more stuff.
We're gonna, you know what? What I would love to see though, if they use Zendikar the way they used Onslaught block, because Zendikar could actually be like the tribal block now, because we're never going back to Lorwyn, right? So you have all the major tribes there.
I want Lorwyn back. I want fairies.
Well,
Lorwyn is super high on the never going back list, as I recall.
You know why we're going back to Zendikar is because they really screwed up last time we went back, and they're like, we need to do it right this time.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
That's
Zendikar has been a broken set every time, or either broken or horrible every single one of their sets. Because Rise the Eldrazi and what's the second set?
Anyway, so we don't eat up all the time on See the Truth.
Yeah, we're going to see the truth for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Let's go to Joriel. I'm not pronouncing the rest of that name to mangle it for all of you to make fun of.
Joriel? The
Joriel? The Wolvani Recluse?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a standard card for now.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is, for modern and even in historic purposes, it's worth keeping your eye on. This card is so much better than it looks. I totally dismissed this when I first read it, and then I played against it, and if you're in any sort of mid-range or /control matchup, you feel like you are losing real bad if they cast this card on turn 2. So that's kind of the role this card serves. Is it's I would rather have this in play in a control mirror of some kind or a slow mirror of some kind than like what's the Goblin Rabble Master or any of those kinds of cards you side in to punish slow decks. Like, this card is so strong because what you don't realize, is that once you hit 6 mana, if they haven't answered this thing, you can just win the game on your combat step.
Oh yeah.
If you have a few 2/2s built up, you just swing, turn sideways, make them all 5/5s. Yeah. Game's over.
Well, you get to go turn 2 Jolrael and then turn 3 Llanowar Visionary. Seems pretty good, right?
Well, turn 2 Jolrael, turn 3 Teferi, bounce your dude. It's usually how it's going right now.
Is this played in Bant?
Yeah, you play a few copies of this in Bant, and if you ever do that, you feel like you've won the game.
You could just play this in mono green, right? Like,
well, they can't draw 2 cards very efficiently.
Yeah.
Oh,
if you could draw 2 cards,
Visionary the only way I'm thinking.
In his
Visionary is not getting played in mono green though. You don't want to play a 3-mana 2/2.
No. I guess things like Cultivate, they draw you cards, but don't actually draw you.
Yeah, you have to literally draw a card. So Bant is the card to play. Bant and Temur are the places you're seeing it right now.
Okay.
Phoenix, I've seen. This is something that I think might happen. This is why I brought it up for modern purposes. Is that people have been brewing a Temur Phoenix deck. I haven't seen a list go around yet, but I've been watching a lot of Crockies play standard and some historic from Ali Eldrazi, right? And I've seen this deck come up a lot in High Mythic, and I've been trying to put a list together where they just basically play this in Phoenix, and that really seems convincing to me because it helps you not dirtle around too much.
It's tough for me to see this in Eternal formats though, because it literally dies to every single 1-mana removal spell.
Sure, yeah. It has problems in it, but it is much stronger than it reads. And it is a real kick in the balls about how green gets to draw the cards now. I guess that's the green's theme, is draw 2 cards per turn.
Yeah, like, come on. How are you going to tell me green isn't drawing all the cards when, just ever since Tireless Tracker, green has been the card advantage color.
And it's weird, because I love Tireless Tracker with all of my heart, and now I hate that this is what happened afterwards.
Oh, yeah. 9 lives.
Speaking of cards that are nowhere near as good as they look.
No. You just have to donate it to your opponent.
The best thing I've heard about this card so far was the idea of putting this in play along with Phyrexia and Unlife. Which, I mean, yeah, I guess you win, but...
Why Phyrexia and Unlife? You mean Solemnity?
Yeah.
Both, I guess.
Yeah, because...
Because Unlife, if you're undead with Unlife, it kind of does the same thing, I think.
I guess remember. it'll prevent longer, but no, it's definitely Solemnity because then you just don't take...
Yeah, Solemnity, you don't take damage.
No counters,
Yeah. But honestly, this card, it's trap, guys. Unless you're doing some funny Solemnity stuff or plan on harmless offering it over to your opponent.
No, what this card is an amazing Vorthos card because all those
absolutely.
cats up there, very important cats in the history of. If you go look, these are all cats pulled from art and Magic cards.
Oh, that's not the Lion King in the background?
No. I think that right there is.
That was the end credit scene for Lion King.
But I don't know all of them.
Yeah,
I see Marisi. Is that Marisi back there?
Yeah. There's Miri, there's Kemba, there's... I don't know all the cats of magic.
You have a Johnny's Pride mates up there. It's pretty sweet.
I can tell you it's not Lion King.
Yeah. But think about how mad would you be...
I can tell you it's not Lion King. Foster died though.
Can I tell you how mad you must be, though, if you've been these 8 cats in your previous lives, and as the 9th cat, you come back as this guy?
Oh, that would suck. Just you come back as a house cat, and you're like... That explains the look it's giving. It kind of looks really angry.
So I think they had a big flavor fill, like, because they could have just made the cat from Harmless Offering this 9th life, and that would have been perfect.
They should have the cat being dropped into the Witch's Cauldron.
No. That cat has a few more than 9 lives.
Oh my god, that was mean.
Moving on.
You can't tell, I really don't like that card.
PETA is coming after you. Dear Lord.
Yeah,
no card except Sensei's Divining Top has taken up as much as my life as sacrifice my Cauldron Familiar, sacrifice my food, bring back my Cauldron Familiar.
No, it's wait till my turn, bring back the Cauldron Familiar.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to Stormwing Entity. So you can Manamorphose this guy out to have it be a turn 2, 3/3 Prowess Flyer that scries 2.
Are you going to play Werewolf and play or something?
Or you could play something better than Stormwing Entity. In Standard, maybe if there's a Sprite Dragon deck still around.
I don't really want this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm still like kind of iffy on that. Like you're losing... No, I guess I'm the only one still playing Drakes, but...
The biggest problem, actually, for Stormwing Entity in Standard, this card would be good if there was proactive, cheap spells to cast, but there really just isn't. So unless you're going to shock your opponent's face, it's just hard to say on turn 3, I'm going to cast something good for 1 mana, play a Stormwing Entity. It's like Crash Through is the best card you have, and it's...
Like
Crash Through, maybe Shock.
Attack and Probe is gone on all the older formats, too, so, like, I'm just not seeing this. I think
even if you could put this into play on turn 2, it's not that amazing. It's fine. Yeah. I do like that it's a standard, like a more recent card that might... It's the most pushed Prowess card in the set, and I do like Prowess as a mechanic, especially when there are already flash decks. So I hope it sees some play because it's cool. But
is this any good in the Elementals deck?
Definitely not good in the Elementals deck.
Yeah.
The Elementals deck doesn't cast spells. Like, it casts exactly 1 spell, and that spell is Genesis Ultimatum.
Yeah, see, it comes into play after a Genesis Ultimatum, either because of the Ultimatum or because of the mana you have left over.
Yeah, this isn't really what you're looking to do after you cast Genesis Ultimatum, so I don't know about that one.
Moving right on past that, we have Primal Might. I'm not really too sure. I guess it's a removal spell that can also pump for lethal.
There's been sets, there's been standards where you've played Rapid Bite.
Yeah,
and this card is
1 mana removal
better Rapid Bite.
If this card can trample, 100% see it. But it doesn't.
At the very worst, this is 1 mana target creature you control fights a creature, which that has seen play before.
Yeah.
So at its worst, it's a card that will see play, but it also has this X where you can pump up a creature. So I don't think it's amazing by any means, but it will definitely see play because it's versatile enough to be usable in different circumstances.
Yeah, and mono green mirror matches in Standard and Historic are already a thing. And let me tell you, casting this on your Stone Coil Serpent to kill their whatever non-questing beast creature, Yorvo, is a huge beating. So yeah, it plays. Yeah. It shouldn't be a rare. No idea. I guess this card's a rare because it's dumb and limited. But
yeah, Luis Scott Vargas said something about this, saying this feels like one of those cards where they had one too few rares, and they're like, well, we have to find one of these uncommons to push up. I guess this one.
See, I would agree with that if it wasn't dumb and limited.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, like this in limited feels like just completely absurd to me.
Oh yeah, it's exactly as good as you think it is in limited, especially because one of the best creatures in the set is the what's it called, the crawworm or whatever, the big dinosaur, the 6 mana 6/6 trample.
Colossal Dreadmaw.
Colossal Dreadmaw. You cast Colossal Dreadmaw. You untap. Don't even play a land. You just pay 5 mana, 6 mana into this on Colossal Dreadmaw. Attack. Kill your best creature. Attack for 11. I would be really happy if that was an uncommon.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is also something to keep in mind if you're a mono green EDH player, because you don't have very much spot removal for creatures in that format.
What are you talking about? There's like 11 rabbit bites at this point, aren't there? You could cast the almost better, strictly better rabbit bite that's in the same set in Ram Through.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which I think Ram Through is one of the first times a set card's ever been printed in back-to-back sets too.
Yeah, but this is an infinite mana outlet.
If this said instant and trample, I think it would be way better for older formats.
This card would be insane if it gave trample.
Oh no. If this thing had trample, push it to mythic. I don't ever want to play against it in limited.
Well, I mean, they still kill your creature in response, but...
Yeah, but still.
There's lots of things that give trample that...
They laugh at you as they uncast Illuminate, targeting your creature.
Moving on to Scavenging Ooze.
This is what I alluded to when I said there's better ways to deal with Uro in the graveyard.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do we even need to talk about Scavenging Ooze? Everybody knows how good this card is. This
is going to be like a 3 or 4 of in almost every game.
The thing is, though, that Scavenging Ooze actually wasn't that important in Standards previously when it was around. Like, obviously, anybody who plays Eternal formats knows exactly how good this card is, but every time this card's been put into Standards specifically, it hasn't had that large of an impact because the game wasn't so much about the graveyards. Right now, the game is really about the graveyard in Standard.
Yeah, goodbye Cat.
If you're playing
Uro,
if you're playing against anything that's not Team or Reclamation, you want this card in play.
Yeah.
Even when you're in mono green mirror matches, it's like, okay, you guys are trading creatures a lot. The first person to cast a Scavenging Ooze usually wins. Yeah. This card is so insane.
And it's also just
Cauldron Familiar. It eats Uro. It eats the other Titan.
Croxa.
The black red. Yeah, Croxa. There's so many things that this card just gets rid of, and it's also a big green creature.
And let me put you this: you could put a Gem Razor on this.
Yeah.
And
also, it's really good in the green-white counters deck. It's really good against aggro decks. Like, this card is just a standard all-star, I think, this time around.
Yeah, this is going to be the best standard Scavenging Ooze ever seen. This is the best creature. This is easily the best card in this set. There are some really good cards in this set. Every deck plays this already.
I mean, I'm going to disagree with this being the best card in the set, but we'll get to that later.
Well, I think the only reason why you wouldn't say Scavenging Ooze, or you wouldn't say that we might say Snoop is better than this card, is because Scavenging Ooze already exists in the formats in which Snoop is good. But if you think Ukid's better than this card, you haven't played Standard yet.
No. I've got some hot takes.
Oh, God.
Let's move on.
Anyway, moving on to...
Get 4 copies now while they're cheap. Now. And keep them forever. Actually, probably buy 10.
Anyway, moving on to Subir. I can't pronounce that. The 3-mana haste 2/3. Pay 1. Another creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked. Pay 2 and tap it. Discard your hand until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card.
So you think you stabilized against mono red, but you really didn't.
Nobody thinks they've stabilized against mono red.
Okay, here we go. Once again, I like this card, but well, actually, I hate red cards, and I get upset whenever I put mountains into my deck. But if I did like mountains, I would like to point out to you that this card will coexist with Anax the entire time it's in Standard, and Anax is usually a 4/3, not a 2/3. So it's just another one of those unfortunate casualties.
But you know what? This is really good at making the card you want to put Embercleave on unblockable.
Does that matter? Don't you just put Embercleave on a creature that's not blocked?
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. The only thing I see this really doing is drawing you a bunch of cards, if I'm going to be honest. I think this is best if you want it out of the sideboard to get some card advantage.
That's the problem. Burn spells are terrible in Standard. Lightning Strike is too good for us. Right?
No, it's discard your hand and it's combat damage.
No, that's what I'm saying. But like, if you're drawing a bunch of cards, you probably want them to be burn spells or quick spells, right? And those are so bad in Standard right now.
Or refill your hand, right? Like,
not to mention, well, and here's the big other problem is that we have Experimental Frenzy right now too. In fact, mono red is like the best card deck in this format at drawing cards if it really wants to be. They have Experimental Frenzy. They've got Light Up the Stage. They have 5-mana Chandra if they really want it.
Yeah. Moving past that,
it's cool.
We have Thieves Guild Enforcer.
Should have reprinted Captain Lannery Storm though.
Oh, that would have been nice. So Thieves Guild Enforcer, everybody knows it.
You're probably gonna have to read.
Yeah. So 1 mana, 1 flash. mills your opponent and can be a 3/2 death touch. So yeah, this card seems pretty good if you if you're in a grindy deck, you're going to get 8 or more cards in your opponent's graveyard, especially since this does 2 of the mills for you. So it's basically a 1-mana 3/2 death touch in the late game of any of these types of decks.
So
plus,
I'm hearing it's a flash Delver of Secrets.
Well, here's the thing, though. Delver of Secrets gets flying, right?
Yeah.
And Delver of Secrets flips on turn 2.
But when has flying ever been relevant?
Delver of Secrets.
This card is
also, yeah. If you can do a heavy rogue deck in casual, this card is epic. Like you can mill them out and still have some good creatures.
Tokens rogues?
Yeah, it procs off of rogues.
They are fairy rogues, yes. Better Blossom makes rogues.
So guess what? Play it with Una.
I'm pretty sure rogues are a really bad don't play rogues, kids. There's no lord. Come on.
Well, they just came out Tiny Bones, right? Isn't he a rogue? In Jumpstart?
He is, but I don't think milling your opponent is what Tiny Bones is all about.
I don't think that's what rogues are all about, if we're being honest. This is the thing, if this card is not a big enough payoff for the work you'll have to put into to make it do anything. Unless you're literally attempting to mill your opponent. But then I would like to introduce you to this card called Hadron Crab. You should put that in your deck instead of this. Yeah. Crab Tribal is better at milling than the Rogue Tribal is.
Oh man.
It's just a 1-mana 3/2 on turn 4. I don't see it.
No, it's best case scenario. It's a 1-mana 2 for 3/2 on turn 4. And if your opponent, the only time when this is good is if you've cast Surgical Extraction on your opponent's Uro. So...
Oh man. No, you see, the reason I put this onto the list is because I thought for some reason that Rhineborn Cutthroat had been a rogue and not a pirate.
No, no, it's a pirate.
Yeah, I was thinking, hey, if you can get blue-black flash and have a couple of rogues going around, just incidentally mill, it'll eventually be a 3/2, and you kind of want...
blue-black flash. Why would you want to do that?
I am playing so much blue-black flash on this channel.
What is wrong with you? You enjoy dying to Triceratops?
It's so fun.
Look, man, it was good before they banned Winota.
Oh, you're talking.
There's a reason we liked Splinter Twin. It's because you got to play everything at instant speed.
I got to play everything at instant speed, and I got to play good removal spells.
If you're talking about Historic, then I'll give you a pass because I have not played it in Historic, so I will assume it's better there than it is in Standard.
I'm going to say you can't proc it often enough now. I thought there would be incidental ways of, triggering it in Historic, and the Flash deck, there just aren't.
I just don't want this effect. Like, this is a downside in Standard Historic right now.
It really is.
If I'm playing against Nexus of Fate or Uro deck, which Nexus of Fate happens to also be, milling cards out of them is actually actively bad.
Yeah.
Turn on your Search for S content, turn on your Uro.
Moving past the card we don't want to play, Spore Web Weaver, the other card we don't want to play.
Oh, no. I want to play this card. Where was this card when I was dying to freaking... to the Siren with a Siren with a Curious Obsession put on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, this card seems fine.
I just this is great. Part of a really bad infinite combo involving the dragon from earlier and heroic intervention. But that's not ever going to be relevant. I hope.
That's really bad.
Hey, dude, just let me play Spider Dragon Tribal.
That doesn't even kill your opponent. It just puts infinite 1/1s into play. It gives you infinite life.
It gives you infinite life. It's basically Project X.
You know what I would take sadistic glee in doing is having an opponent do this to me, and then I kill them by having a Teferi and -3ing itself until they mill, while they have infinite life.
So moving on, let's talk about something like Shock or some shit.
Yeah, this card's great though. This card's
great. It's gonna be a really good blocker.
You know what's really good to do is you put Gem Razor on this card. /thread. All right, moving on.
Moving on. Volcanic Salvo. I don't think this is a mono red card, but I do think this is... Yeah, I think this is a Gruul card. I think this is... I get to kill 2 of your creatures for hopefully no more than 3 mana.
Or Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
That's actually a very important text on this card. It makes it good against both sides of the spectrum.
Oh man, where was this card when Oko was printed? It actually kills him.
Unlikely, but you know.
I mean, as long as they didn't play him on turn 2 or 3. You know, when people play Oko.
In a standard rule deck, this will probably be able to be cast like for 4 mana by turn 5.
Turn 4. Turns on turn 4. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Doesn't quite turn on turn 4 on their god. Like turns on turn 5 on God Hands. Doesn't turn on turn 4 usually because you go like Paradise Druid. If you're going like Paradise Druid into Questing Beast, it's not quite there yet, but it's close. The only downside I think this card has is that once again it's going to coexist in standard with Embercleave for the entirety of its existence. Man, the Protocol Train's a real good set, guys.
Things. You know, you want this card to kill your opponent's creatures to help your creatures get through. You want Embercleave to just win the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm definitely playing like a couple of these in a gold deck, right? Like,
yeah, this is a reasonable sideboard card. If you cast this in the mirror match, here's the thing: like, if you cast this in the mirror match, you probably win. But like, if you cast Embercleave on your Questing Beast in the mirror match, don't you win?
You just also win.
So it's good. It's definitely cool.
Yeah. Moving on to Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. So do you guys know the combo? You play
this card $1,000 yet?
Oh, God, I hope not. I hope nobody's actually trying that.
I mean, I know this.
It's just a big
the combo of this with Exquisite Blood. Which like Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood have always been a thing.
This is a Commander and Kitchen Paper Table Magic All-Star.
This card like tanked the price of Sanguine Bond, didn't it?
I believe it did. But there's that old Orzhov card that I forget its name, but it doubles your life total, and then it makes an opponent lose half of their life. So you have this out, and you cast that for 6, and you win.
You can actually play that at standard right now, I think.
Yeah. Which I think is going to be cool. I'm not sure how real that deck is going to be when it relies on a 6-mana sorcery and a 3-mana 1/3 without many other relatively good abilities, I should say.
Even Dies to Oath of Kaya. This should have been a 1/4 at least, or it should have been more aggressively costly. Like,
it's also really good with Oath of Kaya, though. Like if you play it, you play an Oath of Kaya.
It's just that being a 1/3 is disastrous for this card.
Yeah, I think if this card had one more point of toughness, another point of power, just anything really. As it stands, I'm not sure this is gonna really.
No, standard probably not getting it.
Maybe historic.
It's absolutely
also a dumb limited card too. Let's just be clear.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think historic it has a shot. Just the life gain deck is real. I'm not sure you want to splash black, but I'm not gonna see it.
I want to splash for a card that still dies to the inevitable Wrath of God either. But notably for historic though, this gets around fog. So. And I think that's the worst matchup for mono white right now, isn't it? Is the Wilderness Reclamation decks. So
yeah,
just play, and you'll see it in Commander a lot. Get used to it.
Absolutely.
You'll probably see it as a Commander, which is great.
It says Vampire on it, and gain life, and they lose life.
It's a creature that's Sanguine Bond and a Vampire and a Cleric. So you'll see it a lot.
Absolutely.
Moving on to my hot take, because this card does something that no other card could. Make me care about Soul Sisters. This is Speaker of the Heavens.
You think this is the best card in the set?
I'm gonna say that I think this is the best card in the set.
Okay.
I mean, for historic purposes, let's be clear. Like, you do have Ranger Veos in historic, and you were playing really bad cards as your like 8th or 10th target for Ranger Veos. Because I was playing like Leonin, whatever that crappy 1-mana 1/1 that gets +1/+1 and 1 life when you have 3 creatures in play. I don't remember its name. It's that bad.
This is just the worst Dragon Master Outcast, right? Like,
no, not the life gain deck. No.
This is a much better Dragon Master.
You turn this on.
Outcast.
You can turn this on like turn 4 or something.
Yeah.
That being said,
turn 2.
Stop.
How do you do this on turn 2? In realistic.
In Modern. The same way.
You're gonna proc. Oh yeah, proc. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Soul Sisters in Modern is. I do not want to be playing that deck. That's not within the same universe of what I would like to be doing in Modern, right?
That's turn 3, even if you have like turn 1 proc, right?
Because you can't tap
turn
it
1 speaker.
And then you turn 2 Martyr proc.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can activate this.
Yeah.
That being said, that's really far from playable in Modern, I think. Historic,
Look, it made me think about Soul Sisters. That's saying something.
Yeah. I think this card's fine for Historic. I don't know if they really want. Wizards seem dead set on proving us all wrong, or they've seemed dead set on making all white mages really pissed off because they don't refuse to do anything but allow white to gain life. And they're starting to increasingly make cards that reward you that. So if they allow you to cast like a 3-mana gain 10 life card in the next set, then yeah, I'd look at this card again seriously.
Yeah,
but this is a good payoff. This is a reason to go to 27.
Why they made this only on your turn is besides me. Like, it's not that pushed.
I don't know, dude. Like, 1-mana card that makes 4/4s. Like, if you get 1 activation out of this, that's way better than any 1/1 should be.
Well, there's a 1-mana 5/5 the same set, so.
I mean.
Yeah, this card's great.
Moving on to that 1-mana 5/5. Here's Archfiend's Vessel. I don't know.
Did we really put these cards right after another?
Are you gonna put Luris right after this as well? Like.
Yeah, I know. So I know this is not a hot take. Everybody's been saying this, but we have. It's obligatory for us to take a moment to consider the fact that R&D thought that they needed to print this card in the set directly after Luris of the Dream Dead.
Well, you know what? Honestly, on their behalf, like it would have just made the deck at the same power level as the Oko Simic decks. So, like, they just wanted to have an.
You're right. They've made so many design mistakes. They just had to make design mistakes to fix the design.
They needed something to match the Simic level deck with Oko. So
doesn't the Simic deck just turn your Luris into an elk?
All right. So next up we have Bosri's Lieutenant. You want to go over this one, Nate?
Sure. Yeah, so I think this card is absolutely, like, it's not busted, but it's very powerful. So when it comes in, it puts a +1 counter on a creature you control, which base level you can say it's itself, which means it is a 4-mana 4/5, which
is
already
White's never had.
With Vigilance.
Well,
4/5 with 2 relevant keywords.
Yeah, already 4-mana 4/5, that's Siege Rhino stats. And Siege Rhino had a Drain effect and Trample. And this has instead Vigilance and Pro Multicolored, which Pro Multicolored is one of the best defensive options in
Standard, for sure.
Yeah, in current Standard. Yeah. And then plus, when a creature with a +1/+1 counter dies, it creates a 2/2 White Knight. And it itself is probably going to have that +1 counter. So just at baseline, this is a 4-mana 4/5 that dies into a 2/2 and has Pro Multicolored Vigilance. So this card, I think it's going to see. It depends on what format we get, but if we get a somewhat mid-rangey format like we had back in Khans of Tarkir, this card is going to be absolutely bonkers.
I think this card actually only has room to get worse than it is right now because it's missing its. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's really, really good, but it's going to lose Luxon Hierarch, not Luxon Hierarch. The Convoke, put a +1/+1 counter on every creature that convoked this card. Those two cards are best friends right now because it is quite possible to do both of these on turn 4, and it is very hard to lose if you do that.
Oh, I'd imagine it'd be incredibly hard to lose if you do that. Because how do you answer a large board? Board wipe. What do you not want to do if it's going to leave your opponent with a bunch of power? Board wipe.
Yeah. So this card is definitely being slept on. I agree with Nate.
Yeah. It's got protection from Teferi. The only thing that really answers is Elspeth Conquers Death, but that's like 5 mana. And you've already built a green-white counters deck. I mean, this is like a lot of people are talking about how green-white tokens back in when Gideon and Zendikar, or Return of Zendikar.
This is nowhere near that, though. Let's be real.
No, but this green-white deck
is green-white tokens.
The green-white deck, instead of being a green-white tokens deck, is a green-white counters deck. That's just actually like way faster. And Bastard's Lieutenant really just gives it the ability to stabilize and protect itself from board wipes.
Yeah. All right, so Zuhair, next up is Radha, Heart of Keld.
There's a third Radha card?
Yeah, this is a third. It goes from 2 to 4 now.
It's the Heart of Keld, not the Heir to Keld. Those are 2 different cards, sir.
Yeah, it is.
No, the Grand Warlord is the one I didn't know about.
That one's actually like really good. I mean, this one's also really busted, but
you can play Radha Tribal in Commander.
You could. I mean, the Radha.
you can play a lot of things in Commander.
Yeah, I mean, it says warrior on it, so you get to play it with Najila combo, just for alternate all the attacks you want. But this one is actually, I think, extremely strong. Especially first off, Gruul is already pretty good. Gruul Spellbreakers are going to be rotating, I believe.
Yep. Gruul will not be after that happens.
Yeah, no. But this takes its place, and it just, I mean, last time we had, what was the enchantment 2/4 that you played?
Courser of Krufix.
Yeah, last time Courser of Krufix was in standard. This actually just is card advantage on a 3/3. And that bottom ability is actually extremely real, right? It just pumps itself. And like I said when I was talking about Garruk earlier, playing this on turn 3, playing Garruk and making this a 6/6 first strike trampler on your turn and attacking with it, really powerful, really strong. First strike is obviously kind of important, but, you know, Gruul already has access to Embercleave. So first strike is important, but it's not as important as it would be. But once Embercleave leaves, I guess Embercleave isn't leaving, right? It's enthroned.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, Embercleave stays, and that ability is really relevant with an Embercleave.
Yeah. And just really always never losing a land drop in that kind of a deck and having a payoff for when you flood out in Gruul. Because that's just green-red, right? It's an aggressive deck, it's a mid-range deck, but it dies to flooding out sometimes. And this actually gives you an ability to go bigger than the decks that go bigger than you. So I think this card is extremely strong.
This card dies to ECD, gets bounced by Teferi, dies to eliminate. But yes, I agree with a lot of the things.
So only one of those
things. If you play it on turn 4, then it trades favorably.
And only one of those actually costs cheaper than it, right? Like you're playing a 1-mana thing that loses 1 mana, that's even tempo. Playing a 3-mana thing that loses to a 5-mana spell, okay, like you actually tempo them out, right?
Yeah.
Sorta. ECD is a kind of weird card, just by virtue of it also putting a creature into play. But yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. It's fine. It needs Gruul Spellbreaker to rotate out, and it needs there to be a red-green deck after that happens. Like mono green can't just be the best option, which I think is kind of hard. Because the cards that are staying that are going to be good in a green shell are going to be the Stonecoil Serpent. You're going to keep the Gem Razor. You're going to keep the Yorvo. You're going to keep Questing Beast. Right, yeah. And you're going to lose all the red cards that were really the red green aggressive creatures. So you pretty much have Radha and Embercleave pulling you that direction right now, and I think that could be enough for sure.
Well, I think also Terror of the Peaks, like I was talking about earlier. I mean, like all of these together, you have from 2 with Scavenger goes from 2.
Well, you're losing Paradise Druid, so bigger red decks are going to suffer a lot by that loss.
I'm assuming the next set Zendikar will have some sort of 1 or 2 mana drop spell.
I really hope not at this point, because based on the current standard environment. But yeah, I hope we just
I just can't remember the last time standard didn't have a 1 or 2 mana drop.
I can, and it was glorious.
How long ago was that?
It was before they reprinted Werewolf and Dominaria and started this whole mistake all over again. At least they have the sense to put Goblin Chain Whirler in standard at the same time at that time.
Oh, right? I miss
Chain Whirler. I do agree. Radha is a very powerful card. It's going to be kept down right now, and then it just really depends on what the standard format after it's going. Like
honestly, I can even see a case where the first and second Radha are better than the third and fourth Spellbreaker, just because not missing
lacking haste. Haste is just too important right now in standard.
Yeah.
That's the big. If this card had haste, this would be instead of first strike, it had haste. It'd be so much better.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Moving on to the next one here, just to save some time.
Yeah.
Bates, we have Alpine Houndmaster.
Yeah, so I get the weird luxury of reviewing the absolute worst card on this list that somehow is seeing more play than all of the other cards we've talked about so far. Yeah, Alpine Houndmaster is, for people who don't know, it's this 2-mana 2/2 that like searches 2 really medium 2-mana creatures from your deck. But where it gets really good is the second line of text it has that whenever it attacks, it gets +X +0 where X the number of attacking creatures you control, other attacking creatures you control.
I'm sorry, I heard Embercleave target there?
Yeah, we've mentioned a couple times this equipment called Embercleave, and so this is a creature who gets you more creatures, which Embercleave likes, and gets really big when you attack with it, which Embercleave likes. So currently, the best aggro deck in Standard, I would say, is actually a dog deck, believe it or not. It doesn't play the Dog Lord, maybe it should, but it plays. You play Alcyon of Life's Bounty, you play Selfless Savior alongside this guy, and then you just build a board. You put a Embercleave on this guy, and then you either make him unblockable, make him indestructible, whatever, and attack your opponent for their whole life total. And I think that I really loved this card when I saw it, because this is the kind of design space that I would love White to even move into. Like when they're talking about, this is the set of White card advantage, right? They have Mangara in this set, who you notice we didn't talk about because he's so bad. But going and searching a creature like this is very in flavor, and I hope this is an effect we see more of. because this card itself proves how good that can be. Both the cards it tutors up are terrible. Like you would never
absolutely
put cards in your deck.
ridiculously unplayable without this.
Limited deck. You know, one of them's a Grizzly Bear and one of them's a 2-mana 1/2 Squire with fire breathing, right? But it turns out that's just good enough. Like all these kinds of Boros decks really care about is just keeping things on the board, and it doesn't really matter what they are, right? So this card, do not sleep on this card. This dog tribal deck, not dog tribal. This dog, they think they're calling it Paw Blade, which I think is not. You know, I actually read an article today about somebody saying, "Oh, it's kind of just like Cawblade," and I was like, "No, this doesn't have any of the same characteristics of Cawblade."
This is nothing like Cawblade.
It's nothing like Cawblade, but this is a very real aggro deck. It's very interesting, you know, and it's nice to see something weird like this actually kind of poke through. This is kind of replacing cycling as the premier fastest aggro deck. It's cool.
Cawblade sounds so much cooler.
The only downside is you do have to put Igneous Cur into your constructed deck. So
yeah.
Take that however you will.
I mean,
but if we get more dogs, this deck becomes so good. If you get more dogs getting printed, dog tribal, it's gonna be real.
Man. Yeah, I'm gonna say though, the biggest similarity it has to Cawblade is you get to put a bunch of bad creatures in your deck, but hey, at least they give you card advantage.
And I would say for anything but standard, this card is totally irrelevant. Although this deck has started to see play in historic already.
Ooh.
Because putting Embercleave into play is just quite good in historic well. Yeah. And this card does that better than almost anything else. You will guaranteed play Embercleave.
And moving on to our last card in the set review, we have Ugin the Spirit Dragon. So, okay, Ugin is just the biggest thing you can do in Standard. There are better things you can do, like, you know, putting an Embercleave down. But you're not really going to go over the top of, I can exile your entire board, I get a bolt every turn, and alting this is ridiculously easy.
Okay, let's be clear here. This card is really good and really bad in Standard against different decks.
Yeah.
If they're playing to the board like Bant Ramp does, this card is insane. This is the best card in the Bant Mirror. You win every single time if you cast this. Basic. But if they're not playing to the board, for example, a four-color Planeswalkers has become really popular all of a sudden, specifically because it doesn't care about this card. You play this, they play out their Planeswalkers 1 or 2 at a time, they get card advantage off them. You play your Ugin, they just nickel bolus it off the field, right? So if there's more control decks, this card gets a lot less good, and it will get a lot less good with Growth Spiral's gone. But man, are you right against the other decks? Like dogs.
I mean, like this is just going to transform. It's going to just form Standard. Either you're the Ugin deck or you're beating the Ugin deck, and those are the two options you have to play.
Yeah, because honestly, this card is just so powerful that if it's not playable, it's because everyone's playing around it.
Let's be clear here. This is not the biggest end game in Standard right now.
What do you think? Oh, okay. Expansion Explosion.
Yeah. So this card's time.
I wasn't really counting the combos so much as like if you're just looking for a single big payoff.
Yeah.
Ugin is it.
This card's going to have a lot more play after the rotation when we lose Wilderness Reclamation.
Once we lose, you know, another card that I'm questioning why was printed. But Ugin is.
It's worth pointing out we also lose Growth Spiral at the same time, which does hurt Ugin. But yeah, Cultivate plus Uro means we're going to be seeing a lot of... Cultivate, Uro, and Solemn Simulacrum are all in the same set. We're going to be seeing a lot of Uro in Standard.
Oh, yeah.
Or Ugin in Standard.
Solemn Simulacrum just plays so well with this deck, right? Like this.
Yeah, doesn't even get exiled.
Doesn't even get exiled. You just keep your blocker to draw a card another day.
You can even just plus your Ugin to shoot it to draw a card.
But I think the big thing I'm worried about Ugin is that right now playing Ugin seems really reasonable because Permission is not. Right, Permission sucks because Teferi's in Standard. Ugin's going to lose a lot of play after rotation too, because counterspells being unlocked again is going to matter a lot for an 8-mana sorcery speed card.
Oh yeah. There's also the question of, do you think that some of those Permission decks, do you think they're able to slow the game down enough to the point they might be able to actually cast the Ugin?
Oh yeah, certainly. Because they're going to still have like Yorion plus the Omen of the Sea and the Omen of the. White Omen.
And Solemn Simulacrum, right? Like that card is really good with Yorion.
Also worth pointing out that this also works pretty well with 6-mana Ugin, in that you play 6-mana Ugin, he gets you to...
Yeah, but then you put 6-mana Ugin in your deck.
6-mana Ugin isn't that bad. He creates a board presence, draws cards, kills things.
He has very low loyalty, is his biggest weakness, I think.
Yeah.
And being a target for Elspeth Conquer's Death, but that's kind of a problem they all share. They're going to share.
If you're using him as like that Growth Spiral into Solemn, into Ugin,
Yeah. A shell I do think will get a lot stronger that I've seen pop a little bit too, that plays Ugin but doesn't play any of the ramp, is Mono Black. People have started to play Mono Black again with Solemn Simulacrum and Ugin as their top end. And I don't think it's super good. They're lacking really compelling options, but this is the deck that plays Ugin that will get the best after.
Also, I think one thing to note is we are going back to Zendikar, and I'm not sure if they're going to put Eldrazi's on there.
Well,
I hope not. Well,
that's the whole question. What the hell are we doing on Zendikar?
But if they decide to
if they put like Eldrazi Remnants or whatever, like,
if they put, like whatever. I mean, Ugin becomes way better in a set where they're pushing colorless creatures.
Yeah, I also believe we're going back to Innistrad in the next year too, if I'm not mistaken, which means that we might get Emrakul back into the standard as well. So,
yeah. You know, I'm gonna have to disagree with you, Zuhair, though. Like, I think Ugin doesn't get better in a set with colorless creatures. I think it gets a lot worse.
Yeah, that's why Ugin wasn't very good in his first standard, right? Or not insane in the first standard. It's because Eldrazi came out right after he did, and then what does Ugin do against Reality Smasher?
Yeah.
So
he just kind of sits there and is like, well...
It's already kind of a problem that this Ugin has. I've played this already, where I played 6-mana Ugin, and they played 8-mana Ugin. And 8-mana Ugin sucks against 6-mana Ugin. So...
you see, there's another reason to play 6-mana Ugin. It beats 8-mana Ugin.
You know what also beats 8-mana Ugin? 5-mana Nissa. 5-mana Nissa makes 4/4 colorless lands. So that's also... Good.
Well, you can lightning bolt the lands, but yeah, you lose slowly to it. I mean, if you're, I wouldn't feel that bad if my Ugin's losing 1 loyalty and they're losing 1 land every turn, but yeah, it's not the best.
Also, able to actually
both, though.
Eat. What was that?
Sultai plays both. Sultai will just play Nissa and then they'll play Ugin and then they'll kill all your stuff and have lands to attack you with.
Yeah.
Does Nissa have to target your own lands? By the way, I'm pretty sure she does.
Yeah, you control.
Yeah, you control.
I'm always looking for that way to just turn lands into creatures so that I can, get rid of them.
Heartless
I don't like my opponent having lands.
That would not be nice.
Yeah, Ugin's definitely the highliner of the set, but it's an uncertain future. I think it's kind of a testament to how crazy standard is, where it's like we're not sure if Ugin is going to really stick around.
And it's not because of like meta. It's because of not because of meta like it was last time, where it's like there's a bunch of colorless stuff to resist him. It's like on power level. Ugin's power level might not be there.
Yeah, because like even in the Bat Mirror, if you Ugin wipe out a bunch of their stuff, minus wipe out a bunch of stuff, and they ECD your Ugin, you're not actually sure if you're winning.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a good card, but there's problems with it. Like getting expansion explosion for how much does he need to be at? 9? Yeah.
I don't think they're targeting the Ugin.
All right, so can I get how are you guys feeling overall on the set? Do you think this is going to be a big impact? Do you think it's going to be slightly lower than average? Good set, bad set? How do you feel?
I'll let James talk.
I think that the set is pretty good. It's not going to have a huge impact just because it's the last set of a rotation. So there's so many other cards to compete with that it's going to be fine. But as soon as rotation happens, I think that the cards in this set are actually going to like be some of the format definers.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings. Like, first of all, I think this is the least impactful set I remember coming out in a long time. In terms of standard applications, where you are generating 0 new decks basically, except I guess this Paw Blade kind of deck might be a thing in the long run.
I mean,
and
you
the
say
best deck in the format plays no 0 cards from the set.
Yeah,
like that's kind of the problem, and it doesn't help. No cards in the set help you interact with the best decks in the format. So on that hand, I think it's kind of weak. On the other hand, I do agree with Nate that a lot of these cards will have chances to shine. But then on like the third hand, I think that one particular aspect the set really fails for me is the myth. Like the aside from Ugin, we talked about Ugin, right? But you notice we didn't talk about a lot of the other mythics. Like I disagree on Terror of the Peaks even being good. But a lot of the mythics like Baneslayer Angel, almost all the Planeswalkers are somewhere between uninspired and unplayable. Like do any of you guys even know the text on this Liliana?
+1. Each player discards a card. Each opponent who can't loses 2 life.
Okay, sure, -3 life.
-3.
Yeah.
Destroy a creature with toughness less
something
less than cards in your graveyard. Ultimate win the game.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. The point is, there's
Yeah, no.
Personally, I dislike the set both because I don't think it has a lot of impact, and I also just don't think it's very inspiring. There aren't a lot of cards I'm very excited to play, and the cards that I am excited to play is like a reprint.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I would have been excited with Ugin no matter what, right? We all would have been.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fine. It's a set.
So I want to talk about the set from a different standpoint.
It's not broken.
For standard, maybe it might not be to the power level, but I definitely think there are some goodies here for Eternal format, specifically Commander. I mean, that's pretty obvious because they've come out and said that this is the year of Commander, and they're going to have a Commander theme pretty much for every set that's coming out. But I just want to mention that we are going in a quarantine time to a core set that's in the summer. Summer sets traditionally don't sell that well, which is why you have cards like Veil of Summer being a $7 uncommon from a summer set, even though it's an uncommon. Because there's just not a lot opened in the summer. People are outside doing other things. And in a time where we're quarantined and people aren't doing as much paper-wise, I think financially this set has a lot of it that if you need something, you need to buy it fast because in about a year or two, there's just not going to be a lot of these cards available.
Yeah, especially because it's not a standard set, too. Because standard drives pack purchases, right?
Yeah. So if it's not a good standard set, people are not drafting. That also opens up a lot. And so people are going to be playing on Arena. There's not a lot of this stuff is open. And so a lot of the reprints are aimed at the older formats. So it's probably not going to push a lot of the prices down too far. So after the first couple months that it's out, I mean, in a year and a half, these cards are going to be expensive if they see extended play.
Yeah, Conspicuous Snoop is a card you should buy now.
Oh, absolutely.
No.
Particularly the Mythics. I mean, there are like 14 different versions of everything, which is kind of annoying. But I think the Mythics specifically as well, because rares, are going to see a little bit of a dip. Snoop, I think right now is about like $6-7, and that's just going to be in every Goblin deck for the rest of eternity. So,
yeah.
Which I have to say, I really hate it when they do that.
Yeah.
Just make a card that's that good. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Although I think that the Mythics are mostly bad, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Well, I mean, they're bad for standard, but things like Massacre Worm is like an Eternal All-Star, right?
Isn't Massacre Worm... This is like its 4th printing, isn't it?
I don't think that's true.
I think this is its 2nd standard printing. Maybe
but it's in like
3rd.
a couple of sets. It's in like a Commander deck, and it's in...
Yeah, I think it's in a Commander deck.
It has.
Oh no, this is actually its 2nd printing ever. Wow.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Yeah,
a Commander deck.
Yeah, this card was getting to be pretty expensive. So yeah. Okay. Definitely buy copies now. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And Grim Tutor's gonna go.
Oh, that needed a reprint for a while.
Well, that's going to go down. That's probably going to hit like $15-20, and then if you need it, pick one or two up.
Yeah, but like the Commander will drive it back up by itself.
Yeah, that was a scarcity thing for its price. Definitely, it is playable, but it was not that. It wasn't $300 playable.
No.
I also have to say that the fact that they said this is going to be the year of Commander and they're putting their Commander cards in Standard is very tone deaf by Wizards, considering the current state of Standard, where all of these cards are actually playable.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I will say, I think this set, the thing I'm happiest about with it, is it's giving us a lot of cards I wish we'd already had, like Scavenging Ooze. I wish we had like main deckable.
I think Scavenging Ooze should be evergreen. It's like a card that should always be in Standard, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Colossal Dreadmaw is one thing to always have in Standard, but like, give us Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah.
Where's my giant spider?
In fact, hold up. Do any of you know if Colossal Dreadmaw ever rotated out of Standard?
No.
Since it got printed? No, it hasn't. It's been around ever since it got printed.
Oh, that's...
Well, I mean, that's not a very long time, to be fair. That's like 2 years. So... Well, let me check.
Still,
I happen to be looking at Colossal Dreadmaw right now. Yeah, it's in 2019. Oh, it did actually rotate out. So it was in Rivals of Ixalan, it was in 2019, and it's in 2021. So it has been out of Standard ever since 2020 came out.
Oh man, that's insane. I never thought that card would ever
This card's
leave.
25 cents? How could this card possibly be 25 cents?
How on earth? Who's paying 25 cents for Colossal Dreadmaw?
Well, I mean, you see, it's a strictly better Craw Worm. That's what you're not thinking about here.
Yeah. No. You're saying strictly better, but what if I want low toughness so that I can get my creatures to die in a specific order for Massacre Girl?
But
Buddy, that is not what strictly better means, and you know it.
And it's a dinosaur, so it's actually in a tribe, unlike Worm, which I think we can all agree should be a tribe, but it's not currently a tribe.
So all I'm hearing is that if you play Crawworm in your dinosaur deck, you don't have to worry as much about Plague Engineer.
Okay, I think that's a good thing to wrap up
Wait,
with.
Crawworm doesn't have trample? Crawworm is like 6/4 with no trample? This card is worse than I remember it being. This card sucks.
Okay, good talk, guys.
That has been our set review and opinions on Crawworm. I hope you all enjoyed watching. And
can you imagine opening this instead of Shiva Dragon back and revised?
Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next.